Hello and welcome back to the Can't Blue podcast. It's our weekly Monday show brought to you from Poddymoor Heath, John, our podcast studio space. I'm Dan Rolinson, joined by John Townley to discuss loads of Aston Villa questions. We're going to get straight into it in a second. John, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, thanks, Dan. Really good win over the weekend. Much needed victory. The 5-0 makes it even sweeter, but the 3 points was really important going into... I mean, we mentioned actually on the Inside Poddymoor show that we did that these 3 games, they're not going to be necessarily season defining potentially, but they have that feeling of, you know, Sheffield United was a must win in every sense of the phrase, and then Man United as well, a massive match in itself. Villa either go 11 points ahead, I think, or 5, obviously if they lose the game, but they do have obviously a superior goal difference as well, and then Chelsea in midweek. So yeah, really important week, but doing well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a little bit concerned that these microphones might be a bit too loud, so I'm going to get up in a second and turn them down a little bit. We are in the studio space. The green wall is still here behind us, and we've got the indoor lights on, so it doesn't look as good as I want it to be, but we are getting there. Shout out to the mugs, by the way, from Diane from DTW Creations. She sent us a little business card saying, Can't Blue podcast, thank you so much for supporting a small business, and a little packet of Haribo's as well.
That's nice.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yep.
So we'll try and incorporate those into one of the shows we do today. It might not be this episode, it might be the next one. But yeah, lovely little mugs and coasters as well, which you can't see the logo, but it is there underneath. Will not be seen on camera, but there we are. One isn't a viewer submitted one, and one I forgot to do. Last week on deadline day when we did like grading Villa's window and we talked about it, we didn't actually grade the window. So despite the thumbnail having an A star in it, which I don't believe in, by the way, but I thought it looked good, we had this episode called Grading Aston Villa's transfer window, and we didn't actually give it a mark. So before we get into viewer questions, if you had to grade the window A star to F, where would you go?
I've had about a week to think about this, because after the show you texted me saying, oh, we didn't actually do the purpose of the video. I'd probably say a B. You know, we're never going to spend huge amounts of money or make drastic improvements to their 11. That's something that you would do in the summer, as we saw obviously last year. But what I would say is Villa were, I don't know exactly, but one of the highest spending teams in the end because of Morgan Rogers and Kostin Velkovic. I think that's how you say his name. You know, it didn't cost like 2 million. It was 6.5 rising. So, you know, not a huge amount of money, but more than what most of the Premier League spent.
Yeah, it was a very low spending window, wasn't it, this year?
Yeah, for obvious reasons. PSR, a main kind of reason behind that.
Are we changing FFP to PSR now? Is that the abbreviation we should be using?
Yes, and it might change again.
Okay.
So, yeah, FFP is a general kind of phrase, I suppose. And yeah, good window, I think, for Villa overall. I would just say that I think we're quite light in midfield. Letting Dendoncker go, I wrote a piece about that last week, whenever the window shut. Now, was it this week? No, of course it wasn't, it's Monday. I don't know where I am. Dendoncker leaves, and I just think we're a bit light in that position. And I understand, again, it's good to get... you know, Dendoncker wasn't one of our highest earners, but he was earning, you know, a fair amount of money, which Villa obviously, you know, didn't want to be paying considering his contribution to the team. But I just thought, you know, for the rest of the season, we're entering the final third of the season, but we haven't even started the Conference League knockouts yet. Maybe we can go far in the FA Cup, depending on what we do on Wednesday night. But I just thought, you know, I don't know, trying to like weigh up the risk and the financial terms of it. Yeah. You know, if Napoli buy him for £7 to £8 million, I think Villa could have got that money anyway from another team. I just don't think it was worth, you know,
the risk of being light if Kamara's injured.
Kamara's injured. Tim has played. We made his second appearance against Sheffield United. Sorry. So that is just my main concern, that we are light in that position. The rest of our business, I think, was good. I think it's really good to see us buying into, you know, those youth prospects, and clearly there's a lot of scouting that's, you know, gone involved in buying Gauchi, Costa, Rogers has played. We obviously tracked for a little bit, and that we've followed, and Lino Sousa as well. So yeah, exciting players. Ones for the future. Rogers will be in the first team. Obviously now Gauchi will be the kind of maybe the second competition to Martinez maybe next season. But yeah, overall solid window, but just a bit concerned about midfield depth.
Let's go into viewer submitting questions then. First one is from Joe, who says, do you think there's a position on the pitch that translate better than others between divisions? So Gauchi, for example, is an A-League goalkeeper, which is a very different standard to the Premier League, but is the art, for want of a better phrase, of goalkeeping, like shot stopping or decision making, not like an even playing field, regardless of the opponent?
I think that's a very good question.
Goalkeeper to me feels like an obvious one rather than an outfield player.
Yeah.
But then, like, even something like a striker, like if you've got a chance on the 18-yard box to finish, surely whether you're a National League player or a Premier League player, the technique of striking the ball is still the same. Do you know what I mean?
Technique possibly, but obviously when you're a striker, there's so much more than that. It's it's having movement and the intelligence to get across your man, and it's all sorts, physicality, all that stuff. So I wouldn't say striker, but I'd say possibly midfielder. But again, I think that completely depends on your ability to step up physically is there's a lot to it, but I think potentially midfield. But yeah, goalkeeper is probably the main one for that. But nowadays you need to be playing with your feet as a goalkeeper. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe as the years kind of go on, that'll be more common because a lot of lower league teams now are playing out from the back, and this is the massive effect that Pep Guardiola's had on the English game. It's huge. Notts County, for example, just as an example. In the National League last season, they were playing this incredible football, and I think the manager's now at Swansea, which is a very obvious fit for them. But yeah, those players you would now expect could make a step up quite quickly to maybe the Championship or something like that, because they've been kind of taught in that way from an earlier kind of standing point. But the Premier League is so vastly different. Like, for example, Costa, the right back we've signed, he might have all the physical attributes, but technically that's the key now, and it's tactically how is he going to improve and evolve. You see that a lot with academy players as well. A lot of the academy players who are who look ready to make the step up to kind of senior football are physically ready to do so, but it's technically and tactically it's having the kind of drive to learn more and develop. And I think that's something, for example, that Rodgers has got in abundance. So that's why I don't kind of fear for him. I think he'll be flourishing under Emery in the next couple of years.
Next question is from Christopher, who says, this is a podcast question. What happened to the WhatsApp community group? There was one post and then nothing.
Yeah, we need to address it. You should have addressed it earlier. I addressed it on my Twitter, but obviously not everyone's on social media. So our WhatsApp group that we plugged a couple of weeks, well, I don't know, might have been a month ago now. We had to stop it for a period of time due to like a technical error. Hopefully it'll be up and running again within hopefully days. Again, at the time of posting this, it might already be up. I don't know. Could be another week. I'm not totally sure, but once it is, we'll let you know. But it is a shame because we wanted to obviously kind of hit the ground running with that, and we can't. It's kind of out of our control. Technical error from Meta, but hopefully it'll be fixed very soon. We are trying.
Well, I might not know the answer to this question, but this is probably a question that if I was watching, I would have based off this answer. If I already signed up the first time, will I have to sign up again, or will it just automatically start
question.
working?
That's something that we don't know yet. Obviously we're speaking to Meta about it, and we're asking those questions about will we have to make up a new account, make up a new platform to access. So yeah, hopefully it will be back up and running within days, but yeah, we'll let you know basically on the podcast and on Birmingham Live and on Twitter and stuff when it is ready, and then hopefully from then it will be kind of plain sailing. But we couldn't alert people that we can't, because we can't get onto it basically at the moment. That's the issue, and it's trying to be resolved. So yeah, very frustrating, but hopefully it'll be.
Hopefully the next time we mention it on the podcast, it'll be there to stay rather than disappearing again. But yeah, that's hopefully clears that up for you, Christopher. Travis asks, with Kane Kessler coming back, do you reckon we may see him start ahead of Cash due to Cash's recent drop in form?
I don't know. I think Cash gets a lot of criticism. A lot of it I do think is unwarranted sometimes. I'm not saying Matty Cash is one of the best right backs in the division, and I just think sometimes he can be scapegoated, in my opinion. I think that's always the case with any team, to be honest, and it has been the case among the Villa fan base for a long time. Whether it's Cash or it's someone else. For example, Bailey. I don't know, Bailey's playing out of his skin now, but I don't like the narrative of, Cash can't do certain things, so we have to replace this player, and this has to happen. I just think Cash is a Premier League player. He has his limitations, but so does every player. Do you know what I mean? You know, I'm not saying he's the best player on the team, of course. You know, he's not. But for the position that he has, and for what he can give us going forward, we don't have a player like him. Now we have Kessler Hayden, who's come into the team, but he's still very young. If I'm not mistaken, he's 21. He's played Championship football so far. But that's a division that Matty Cash was lighting up for Nottingham Forest and stuff. So I don't think we can kind of make the comparison just yet. We need to wait for Kessler Hayden. Sorry, it's a mouthful. To continue to develop.
Did he not drop the Hayden bit, or am I getting mixed up?
I don't think he did, because it's still on all the team sheets and stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
I thought he did as well, but it is.
It would make it less of a mouthful if you could drop one of these
published.
names. Okay.
Yeah, Kane and Costler. Should we just go with those? Kane, Costa, and Cash. But yeah,
and Conser.
Kane, Costa, Conser, and Cash. Yeah, brilliant. Quadruple of K's and C's. Yes, I just think it's a bit scapegoated sometimes. That's all. And to say that Kane Kessler should now take his place, well, because of exactly what?
I think that's a little bit extreme. I think Conser is the obvious choice at right back, and there's a question about.
They're very different.
We might as well do it.
They are very different players, though. Conser and Cash. They're there for different. Emery said it himself. Conser plays for more defensive security, and Cash plays if we want basically a player who can get to the byline and almost play as a winger. And I don't doubt that Kessler Hayden can do that, but we need to wait for him to mature. The last thing you want to do is throw Kessler Hayden in, and he doesn't have a very good game, and his confidence drops, and then that can have an effect on a player. Yeah,
let's mention Conser then, because there is a couple of questions about him. Darren says, I think Diego Carlos needs to be in our back four. We seem to get clean sheets when he is in there lately. Conser, Carlos, Torres and Moreno is how I see us lining up in big matches if they are all fit.
Yeah.
And Dr. AVFC says, should Conser remain at right back now for the majority of games? He drops into a back three in possession anyway, but it seems like we've played our best football with him in there. There was a stage when I didn't really want Conser at right back, because I think he's a better centre-back than he is a right back, but he's not playing the right back in the sense of that he's bombing down the touchline that you mentioned, although he did make his way into the box against Sheffield United and did well. Yeah. But I do think that both the commenters there are correct, that we play a better brand of football with that back line, I think.
Yeah, and if we were playing a cup final tomorrow, that's the team you'd play, because I think Emery wants control in games. That's the fundamental key to what he wants to be doing with Villa. He wants control, and that allows it, because then you have kind of four safe players in possession there, including Kamara, and then Moreno plays obviously further forward. I think with Cash, he gives you that outlet, and I think in home games that can help, because it gives you more aggression, I think, in the final third, because we've said before he likes to get into the box. He's a box crasher, is what we've called him. And that is very useful, especially against some teams who are playing that low block against us, because Cash can take markers away in different areas, which opens space for Diaby, Bailey, etc. So again, there's pros and cons to both. But I think in a in most games, as the question said, is a fundamental Emery wants control, and I think having Conser there gives you more of that. Not because Cash can't play that way, but I think it gives us more security, and it allows other players to make use of those areas that Cash wants to kind of get into.
Yeah.
And again, that can work in some games, but some of them maybe not so. And by the way, I think Cash coming off the bench in some games also does help, because it gives you a completely new way of playing sometimes. And when the opponent is kind of low on energy, that sort of thing, Cash coming on is not really what they want. So still a very useful part of the 11, really. Doesn't have to be starting. We've said before, like in the first part of the season, Leon Bailey is a great finisher to a game. Well, now he's undroppable. Cash can be that, I think, for us, in terms of not undroppable, but a player who can come into a game and make a real impact.
A couple of quick fire ones here, I think. One from Nate, who says, as Bertrand Traoré terminated his own contract, do we know if he left on bad terms?
So those contract terminations, if that's the right thing to say, they are mutual. So it's not a case of the club ripping up his contract and Traoré just walking out the door. It's a mutual thing, of course. It's
it been paid off to some degree, whether that's the full length of his contract or
that's not something that we know, but they are mutual. The only thing I'd say is the club, they were obviously unhappy that he's it was kind of like a bit of a running joke that Traoré would be playing more for his country than for Villa. But it was true, and Villa were paying his wages and a lot of them, so that is going to be frustrating as well. You know, it's not always Traoré's fault that he's injured. Of course it isn't. I'm sure he wants to play every game and be involved. But you know, the truth of the matter is that he played twice, I think, in the Premier League this season. Burnley and Luton, I think. He came off the bench. Played in the Conference League a little bit. But then he's playing for his nation in almost every international break. He came back injured, didn't he, from the November one. So that is a massive frustration, because although Traoré isn't a kind of, you know, he was very much on the fringes, but these are players that you still want in your team. You know, if you look at the bench, not necessarily against Sheffield United, but I think it was Chelsea, it was really weak. You know, there really wasn't a lot to go off there. And last season we saw when he came back, he made a key impact. He won 2 extra points against Leicester, and he scored the first goal the week after against Nottingham Forest. So, you know, while these players don't make a massive impact across the season, if they do it in 1 or 2 games, well, that can be the difference. So, frustrating for the club that he couldn't show in the last 18 months any sort of consistency, really. But yeah, as far as I know, there's no kind of falling out or anything. It's their mutual termination. So
yeah, it's the right time, isn't it? It's one of those.
Yeah, it's a shame we couldn't get a fee, but I'm not shocked.
Sam asks, it's the age-old question. I think we've probably done this before. Champions League qualification or Conference League win? You can only choose one.
Well, sorry, Sam, but I think the question, I get it, but we can do both. So yes. I really don't want to. I will say one. Oh no, I won't. I don't want to.
You've got to pick one. He says you can only choose one.
Oh, yeah, but we can do both. It's like saying, do you know what I mean? It's just.
It's Champions League qualification. If you can only pick one, of course it is. It's a higher level of competition.
All right, next question.
Conference League gets you into the Europa League.
Yeah. No, obviously silverware is massively important as well.
I think the one we've probably done is Champions League qualification or FA Cup. I think there's more debate there.
Go on then.
Because I think there's more prestige for the FA Cup. I think that's a competition that is worldwide famous. The Conference League is
European.
Not that.
No, I'm with you. Like when we at the start of this season, when I was saying that if we won the Conference League, I wouldn't even kind of put it near the Champions League. No. I would celebrate it because it would have given us a platform to the Europa League, right? But obviously now, here we are trying to get Champions League, and it is silverware, the Conference League. But my point was that I wouldn't kind of open up a, you know, what did West Ham do? They did like an open bus parade or whatever.
I think so, yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
No,
I just think Aston Villa. I know we haven't won anything for a long time, but Aston Villa is a 150-year institution, and all the history we've had. I don't think.
I don't know. Do you
Conference League is an open?
Do you just make the most of celebrating? To me, that feels a bit like the celebration police to say we can't have an open.
No. It's not that you can't. I'm just saying that I
think if you did one, people would turn out for it.
Yeah, I think they would, but I don't know how.
What a conversation this is, by the way.
I just
like guessing whether we have an open top bus pro, something we've not even won yet.
Do you see where I'm at though? Like, I absolutely want us to win it. I'm like, this is why I couldn't answer the question, because I'm desperate for us to see us win a trophy. But the FA Cup that's an open top bus parade for me, because that's like a, you know, this is
it's prestigious competition.
It's prestigious. We haven't won it for so long. The Conference League, I know I said before, and it probably sounds a bit disrespectful, I just feel like it's a bit made up-ish.
But every competition is made up. The FA Cup was made up.
No, I know, but this is... No, I get that. You got the Champions League and the Europa League. You've got
really just needling
the
away
FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and then I know that there was, you know, the European... I think there was like a UEFA whatever before a UEFA Cup and stuff, but this just felt like let's make another cup for the teams who aren't good enough to get in the Europa League. And that's like, you know, well, the team who finishes 7th, like when West Ham, I know they do it tongue-in-cheek, but when they sing Champions of Europe or whatever, it's, well, that's because teams, the 6 teams who finish above you, couldn't even access that tournament because they're better than you.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, you know, that meme where you've got like the guy on the podium and he's got the champagne, and then there's like 6 people above him being like, "What's he celebrating for?"
I'm gonna have to put that in.
That isn't me trying to disrespect what we could achieve this season. I'm just saying that the FA Cup is like you have to be the best, full stop, to win it. The Conference League, you have to be the best of the teams who can't get better than do you know what I mean? Who weren't as good to qualify for the other competitions.
Yeah. I think we can qualify for the top 5 if the top 5 gets Champions League
and get Conference League.
I think we can win the Conference League. I think we can go far in the FA Cup as well.
So do I.
I genuinely think we can do all 3. The thing that you say about like the champions of Europe, but you're 6 teams above you couldn't even get into that because they're in a better competition. I get that, but also saying you've got to be the best of the best to win the FA Cup. I'm just like needling you here for the sake of the argument. I only think there's about 6 teams that can win the FA Cup, despite it being open to the whole of the English football.
I think there's only about 6 teams that can win, 4, 3. You know what I mean? They can win the Conference League as well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but like the FA Cup here's all of the best teams in the country. Like it's the kind of the maximum. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whereas
but
the Conference
I still only
League,
think there's a handful that can actually go all the way.
The Conference League just, again, I want to win it, desperately want to win it, but I don't want to kind of make a massive song and dance that like West Ham have gone, for them, they haven't won much kind of in their history, no disrespect, they just haven't. So for them that was like massive and for them probably felt like a turning point in their history sort of thing. Whereas if we win it, I just see that as finally we've kind of overcome the fact that we haven't won a trophy, and I'd be obviously delighted and massively made up, but I wouldn't put it near the European Cup that we've won.
You wouldn't have it in the top.
No, exactly. I would. Do you know what I mean? That's my point really, because we've achieved something that you can only achieve
because you're not as good as some of the others.
This isn't the right words, but because you're not good enough to go for the other.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know what you mean.
That's kind of where I'm at. Whereas all the other trophies are like, and it's going to sound a bit silly, but like the Europa League, I would celebrate. I would celebrate the Conference League, but my point is that the Europa League, I think, is a big, because you can drop down for the Champions League, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
It's there's reasons to suggest that that's still a big achievement. Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, Champions League, Europa League. Sorry, Conference League just feels like a bit of a bolt-on to me.
Sticking with Champions League, then Matthew asks, label your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10 that we will be in the Champions League next season. I think this is quite interesting to have to put a number on it. This is what I said on Twitter.
I want to be really precise.
67%.
I thought 68, too fair.
Are you actually going to say 68?
Yeah.
I think if 5th is definitely Champions League.
Oh, I'm classing 5th as Champions League.
Okay, you are already.
If it's top 4, it goes down to about tops 50.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me. I was going to say if it's 5th, I'm like 90%.
It would be a surprise if the Premier League didn't get 5th.
Yeah.
It would be. The amount of teams that are in European football, the amount of good, like Man City will be going far in the Champions League, if not win it. So will Arsenal. Villa should go far in the Conference League and help ourselves out.
Liverpool in the
West Ham are good in Europe.
Yeah.
Liverpool in the Europa League, yeah. And so are Brighton. So there's a lot to work with there. So it should be 5th.
I think 85%.
Yeah.
They're in the Champions League if 5th. If it's 4th, I'd certainly be.
You know what? I think we're good.
I think we've got that point. I think again, all these things look very different over the space of as the weeks go by. Of course, if we beat Man United at the weekend,
I'd be
that
massive.
points gap is so kind of. I don't want to say comfortable.
I know,
things change so quickly, but I'd be so much more confident.
You know what it is?
With that,
we could have gone 14 points ahead of United. Pretty much this point last month, a bit more than a month, but it could be cut. To 5 in the space of a month. That's nearly 10-point difference if they beat us, which I don't think is out of the question.
That could easily happen.
I think
it pains me to say it.
Yeah, I think United are the only team who could catch us because Newcastle look quite flaky. I know they beat us twice, but
I think the top
I'm
six,
just cautious still.
I think the top 6 in no particular order is Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. I say in no particular order. That is the top 3 in some kind of order.
Yeah.
Villa, Spurs, and Man United are the top 6.
I'm not sure we finished with Spurs.
No, in any order.
Okay.
I do think we'll finish 4th above Spurs and Man United.
So you do feel we'll finish with Spurs?
I think if I had to put a prediction down on a piece of paper and say where we'll finish, I will go for 4th. Because I've gone with it consistently.
Yeah, you have.
I think if we finish 5th and that's Champions League, I'm still absolutely buzzing with that.
Oh, God, yeah.
But I think somebody of those 3, Villa, United and Spurs, will be 6th. And then you've got West Ham and Brighton and Newcastle as the tier below that. I don't think any of those 3 will be in the top 6. That's where I would put it.
Yeah, that's how I group it as well.
Yeah. But you think we could finish 6th out of theirs?
No, I think we'll finish 5th.
Okay.
And that's why I say 70%, because I still think that's quite I'm pretty confident that we'll finish 5th. I just think a lot can change quite quickly. If we can continue as we're going at the moment, not necessarily recently, but whenever we lose, we always bounce back, and we usually win. I think we always win, actually, and that's massive, because that means that even if we were to slip up, the likelihood is that we then react and we kind of rectify for that. And I think it helps that Man United are inconsistent, or have been so far. So have Newcastle. They've been inconsistent as well. The Conference League for me is a massive question mark. There's going to be so many games. Seriously, like the quarterfinal and semi-final are separated by 1 week. So come April, the end of March into May, so many games. Like it's going to really, the group stage was nowhere near as intense as what this is going to be, and the pressure it's going to bring as well. We're obviously favourites for the Conference League. The players know that the club hasn't won silverware in a long time. We're going to be playing against teams who know that we're the favourites, so it's a scalp. That's their biggest game of the season, pretty much, for a lot of those teams.
So at what point do you prioritise the Premier League then?
This is the thing, they're both priority, because we know now, as I said before, 19 games in asking me about what Villa's priority is. Obviously, we're further along the line now, but now we know that we can definitely get Champions League and we can definitely win the Conference League. So for me, there's no priorities. It's you're juggling both now, and that in itself is something that we won't know how we're going to deal with until we do it. So that's why I'm 70%, because I'm pretty confident that we'll finish above those teams, but we'll see, because one bruise on the thigh to Ollie Watkins in a Conference League game means that he could then miss, I don't know, say Luton away, for argument's sake, I don't know. And then we might not beat Luton, which would be a very difficult game anyway. But do you know what I mean? And then United could gain points on us. It's going to be like that every week. And right now I am feeling quite a bit of pressure. I'm looking at Tottenham's games and I'm celebrating Everton scoring a last-minute goal in the car going off to Sheffield United. And I'm watching United games, actively wanting them to lose, and I know that seems pretty obvious, but before I was very much like, Villa will do their thing, Villa will be fine, and I stick by that. If Villa do their thing, they will be fine, of course they will, but you know what I mean? I'm trying to, every little I'm looking at every game thinking, Lissandro Martinez is injured now, that's a massive boost for Villa, not just in the game, but because United are weaker going forward. Not that I want to see players get injured, but so that's where I'm at now.
Another hypothetical here from Brent, who says, there's talk of selling Douglas Luiz for £100 million. Would we not be better selling an academy product like Jacob Ramsey but for pure profit, say 50 to 75 million, because we'd never replicate Douglas Luiz for that extra 25 million revenue? So selling Jacob Ramsey for 75 is easier to replace than selling Dougie for 100. I wouldn't sell either of them personally, but if a hard decision had to be made, who goes?
Speaking to people within Villa, Jacob Ramsey isn't for sale. That's what they said. They categorically said that he's not for sale. They're not going to entertain offers, etc.
Everyone is for sale though, if the right price.
That was my next point, and we said that in the podcast previously. If Bayern Munich make a £70 million bid for Jacob Ramsey, of course we're not going to just turn it down and block them on email.
Is that how deals are done? Email?
no fax, mate. So not for sale. But, of course, every player has a price. So we'll see. The only thing I'd say about that is that Douglas Luiz will basically make us pure profit because his book value is now so low. We signed him for 15 million. He's been at the club for
2019, was it?
5 years.
2019.
5 years in the summer. So his book value is so low, it's basically pure profit. Pretty much, not pure profit, but as close to it as you can get.
From an accounting point of view.
Same as Ezra Konsa. Again, not a player that I want to see sold, but those players now are pretty much kind of like a full profit transfer, like a full value they would be getting for them if they were to leave. Again, I hope they don't. I would say who is more important, who would you keep? Luiz, I think, is that player because he's just a magnificent footballer. One of the best midfielders in the Premier League. I'm not saying Ramsey can't be that. I think he can be that. But who is more important right now? It's probably Luiz.
There's two here from Jack and Sam Ty in fact. Jack first of all says, please analyse Diaby. Is it no confidence? He doesn't seem to run at players. Too many simple passes go amiss. It's very frustrating. PS, love the podcast. And Sam Ty says, how on earth have we got to the point where Diaby looks lost and Leon Bailey lifts this level of the team so considerably? Football is mad. That's a great point, isn't it? At one point, Bailey was the guy that was like, we need to get rid of him. He's not good enough. And now he's undroppable, as you said earlier. Yeah. I do hope that Diaby gets to that stage in the next year or so, that he's super important to us, and I genuinely think he can be that. But going back to Jack's point, I think it is confidence. I think it's adapting to a new system, a lot of information from Unai Emery and the coaching staff, and when it's not going for you, it's difficult to get it going for yourself. I think it is just a matter of patience, maybe.
I think it's a lack of confidence, but then the obvious question is, why is it a lack of confidence? And I think it's possibly because he had such a good start, because he hit the ground running so well. 6 goal contributions in his first 7 games. Sorry, he was, every bit the player that we thought, we were getting. You're thinking, he's going to be going to the Euros with France, that sort of thing. We've got, a top player on our hands here, and I do think all those things are true. But he's lacking confidence, I think, because teams, I said before, are now respecting us, which is difficult for a player like Diaby because he's not hugging the wing like he would previously be doing. At other clubs, for example, Leverkusen, he'd have Frimpong and himself there, and it's a lot of pace that even, I suppose like a low block, even those defenders in the low block would struggle because it's a couple of passes and they're into little corners. It's bursts of acceleration. It's sprints inside, and there is space to be found there. Whereas now he's playing closer to Ollie Watkins, so he's playing more central. There's less space there. He's playing against big physical centre-backs in the Premier League that all know exactly what he wants to do, which is to run at them, use space, cut inside on his left foot and get shots away. And Leon Bailey's doing that much better, I think, because he's adapted, obviously, now to the Premier League. He knows his teammates, obviously, much better than what Diaby does as well. So I think it's kind of a multitude of things, but it's nothing that I can't see him overcoming. Yeah. And I think that's the key thing. If Diaby hadn't impressed, at the start of his career, I'd be a bit worried because it's like, well,
what have he signed? What is
and will he get better? Because that's a genuine question. But we've already seen that he's a good player, and we've seen him do it well for Villa. And he's not a one-trick pony that he can only run into space, and so I'm not worried. I just think at the moment there's a few reasons why, and I think when he plays best, it's when he's with Bailey, for example. Yeah. And I think that kind of goes to my point of what I mentioned there about Frimpong being with him at Leverkusen. There's speed, there's a combination with Bailey.
Understanding as well, someone who's played with before.
Yeah. So he knows him, and there's combination there. Those are two key elements for Diaby, especially against teams who respect us. So that's why I think he's probably playing his best football with Bailey. But then, in terms of how we set up, can we afford to have both on the pitch when Tielemans is playing so well? Yeah. Obviously, there's John McGinn as well. Douglas Luiz needs space to create. So, yeah, these are all good problems to have. But, of course, you'd rather have a Mr. Diaby who was more confident at the moment. But, I think that will come eventually once he's adapted and once he's kind of fully integrated, I suppose, into his new environment, but also in the Premier League.
This is by no means a bold prediction, but Moussa Diaby will make a big contribution at some point for the rest of this season. Whether it's scoring important goals in the Premier League to secure top 4, whether it's scoring the winner in the Conference League final, or whatever it is, like Diaby's still got a hell of a lot of time to contribute.
Exactly. He had a really good start to the season, and it's kind of petered out since then. But as I said,
could have a brilliant end to the season.
Yeah, as I said earlier, we're about halfway through the season. If we want to go far in the Conference League, which of course we do, so there's plenty of time for him to, knuckle down and continue to improve.
David asks, is Ollie Watkins finally getting the credit he deserves inside and outside the fan base? Is that making him more noticeable across Europe?
I think David's probably right, to be fair.
I think he's half right.
Really? Okay. Watkins, I think, is getting his flowers now. He's
that's a nice phrase, isn't it?
Yeah. He's. I just think because he's been so good this season, like to the point where, only Salah has more Premier League goal contributions. I forget the stat now. Was it? He's the first player to have 10
goals and assists in the league.
Yeah, in Europe's top 5 leagues.
Yeah.
That is something that you can't ignore. However, I think it's crazy that it's kind of taken this for this to happen, for him to be playing, even that good, for outsiders to be kind of noticing him. I think on Match of the Day, they said something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, he's got to go on the plane now." And I was thinking,
just a bit on anyway.
You could have said that about 6 months ago. I was saying it last year just because of he's so different to Kane. He's so different to the other strikers that we have. You need different profiles. That's just talking about England, but yeah, I saw Matt Lynch actually. Obviously, came on the podcast, and he said he was elite, one of the elite strikers in Europe, and didn't even bat an eyelid. I was like, yep. Yeah, absolutely.
We did the Haaland
video, how can he not be? He's the second best striker in the Premier League.
Yeah, Haaland is number 1, Watkins is number 2 as an out-and-out centre forward. Obviously, you've got Salah and Son and blah, blah, blah. But even so,
but out-and-out, number 9,
yeah,
he's the second best in the league. You can't tell me any different.
I think the point about him being more noticeable across Europe is a little bit like the conversation we had, might have been me and Matt actually, about teams getting found out, as if Premier League clubs don't know what other clubs are doing. Europe scouts will be fully aware of Ollie Watkins, regardless of the form he's on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
as if AC Milan or whatever are going to
go,
scored 11 goals now. Let's have a look. They'll be aware of him anyway if they want to be aware of him.
Yeah, and he's just signed a new deal. I heard someone mention where I was on the radio, just a video I was watching, saying, "Oh, why didn't Chelsea just buy Ollie Watkins?" As if just buying Ollie Watkins is an option.
How much is he worth, Ollie Watkins, now?
Right now, 100 million plus.
Yeah.
Why would Villa entertain anything else? Second best striker in the Premier League, scoring goals, getting assists, fundamental.
Getting assists.
He's got a great age. The guy never gets injured. Touch wood. God, you got to touch wood. Never gets injured. Rarely gets injured. He's a machine. He works his socks off, presses high. What's not to like about Ollie Watkins? He's the perfect.
Age as well.
Huh?
Good age as well.
Good age, yes. The only thing he doesn't do is score a hat trick every game. You know what I mean? Everything there is just fantastic. Why would you put him less than 100 plus million? Or, you would just close the email when they ask you. In our fantasy email transfer, But no, you wouldn't entertain it. And yeah, again, really important that we got him down to those new terms. He's probably going to have to give him another contract next year if he continues the way he's going again.
Yeah. The context around the assists and no penalties is
as well.
Probably, if you're not a Villa fan, maybe don't look into the fact that he's got 11 assists and he's not like our corner taker or something, and he's getting assists from pieces, that. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah,
to be so good at both.
I think we
talk about him being like the second best striker, but he's a forward contributor with the assists as well.
Yeah. It's Haaland and De Bruyne in one.
There's the title for today's episode.
Oh God, I think it's 28 goal contributions in 32 games in all competitions.
26.
Different
stats have different numbers.
Yeah, weirdly, but it's a hell of a lot of. The guy's greedy with it, which is great.
Couple more questions to end the show. These are still about strikers. John, first of all, says, despite having so many scorers in the match against Sheffield United, will this be maintained moving forwards to make up for not buying a striker in January? My hunch is that it will. Our midfield will step up and score plenty. I saw the tweet you did, and this is why I wanted to include this, of the goal contributions across the team. Some great numbers from the squad as a whole.
Firstly, based on the Sheffield United game, what I would say is that I don't take much out of the 5-0 element, because that is a championship set of players, and I've been banging on. I say every podcast is boring. That I haven't seen Villa kind of put out a 10 out of 10 away performance, and we've really, warranted, a 2 or 3-0 win or whatever it may be. And that was that performance. But I almost just put a line through it because it's just the standard for them. It's
I feel like you should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it should have been more if we wanted it. It was a practice game in the second half, and Emery kind of said that himself, saying he's practicing things. So yeah, I don't take much from that 5-0, but it's good obviously to see those players have stepped up throughout the first half of the season or 2/3 of the season. Louise particularly getting amongst it really well. So yeah, I don't doubt that they'll continue to contribute, and I think they have to, because we're dominating the game so much in an opponent's half that our midfielders aren't playing on the halfway line like they were in Dean Smith or Steven Gerrard. They're playing on the edge of the box, like McGinn, Bailey, all these players. They're in zones where they can cause problems, whereas previously Villa midfielders, McGinn probably had about 5 goal contributions in most of his Premier League seasons before now. Something like, possibly more, I don't know. But, give or take.
It's his best goal scoring season already, isn't it, this season?
Yeah.
I think he's got 6.
And that's because we're dominating teams and because we have someone like Torres who can control matches and just keep giving the ball to them on the edge of the box and stuff like that. So
we spoke about this on the post-match show, the McGinn goal to kind of set the tone early on to obviously get the lead. He reacts quicker than, I know we just said about the standard or whatever, but Sheffield United defenders don't react to that ball coming back off the post or being cleared off the line. They kind of give up on it, whereas McGinn makes up a load of ground to get there, and it's obviously an easy tap-in, but you put yourself in the position.
And that's not a goal that Villa have seen McGinn score before this season, unless it's for Scotland, because he's not given either the licence to do it, or Villa don't have the capability to, say, pin teams back. And so it's no coincidence that because of the team that we are now, that all the players are contributing because they're allowed to, pretty much. They don't have to run with the ball for 30 yards to get close to it. For example, if Grealish was playing in our team now, he was always dominating the kind of stats of progressive carries and runs into the final third by, a long way across all the players in Europe. That would be, still high, but significantly less, because there would be less space for him to run and manoeuvre. His game would be different. So just as a side point, when people say, would you take Grealish back into the team? Of course I would. Grealish is the best player I've ever seen play for Villa, but he would be different. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't be as mannequin-like as he is for City, but he wouldn't be the player that runs from the penalty box like he did against Arsenal. I mean, he could for some games when we're defending, but as a general rule, he'd be a different player. He'd be doing different things, and similar to what he's doing for City, but not to like an extreme level.
Yeah. The final question then for this Monday show Q&A is from David, who says, talk about Cameron Archer, please. There's lots of speculation about him returning should, and it's inevitable, in brackets, that Sheffield United get relegated. Something about it being in the contract. Is there any truth in that? If so, I would have him back in a heartbeat.
So we're led to believe that he will be coming back to Villa.
If they're relegated.
If they're relegated. And that was the clause, when they're relegated, And, of course, then the conversation is, well, what happens then? Do Villa sell him off once more, or do they keep him in the squad? I would suggest that he probably leaves again, because Villa have John Duran, who I think's made great strides over the last year or so, obviously injured now until April. But kind of a surprise, really, when that news came out, and again, we were led to believe that is the case. So
there was a rumour of it, wasn't there, a few months ago when he first went there, that it was almost like an extravagant loan. Basically, that there was this deal in there that if they were relegated, Villa would be obligated to buy him back. It was obviously the buyback clause, was something we knew about, the buyback option, where it becomes an obligation if they're relegated. Like he will come back, and the figures for the transfer are already agreed. I think there was something about, and again, whether this is true or not is a different matter, like Archer's contract and stuff is already agreed for him to come back as well. Like all that was sorted, and that's why it took such a long time to get it over the line to begin with. So that Sheffield United being relegated, they paid what for him? Was it 18 million or something?
18 million, yeah.
So Villa buying back for 12, let's say, and we don't know the figure. It's basically a 6 million loan fee.
Yeah.
And Villa also get to then offset the transfer fee across his contract again if they were to keep him around.
Yeah. So again, we don't know the finer figures, as you say, Dan, but if he comes back, and when he comes back in the summer, I suppose you could say, I'll be interested to see what kind of interest is for him, because he's obviously proven himself in the Championship, for sure. But in the Premier League, he hasn't proved himself quite, but it's very difficult because he's playing for a very poor team. So I don't know.
I think
for me,
someone like a Crystal Palace.
I was about to say Leicester, to be honest. I mean, a team who I don't think will be in, clear of danger next season necessarily. Do you know what I mean? But they could have enough, to stay up, I think, above some teams, because they have already a decent base of players, and they're clearly, that's a Premier League team waiting to be. So I think Arch could go in there and not necessarily start every game, but can definitely contribute in a better team, and that will give a better reflection of him as a Premier League player. Palace, maybe, I
was just thinking, they'll be interesting. Never going to be in the top half, but also never really have a massive threat of relegation. Yeah. Somebody, if they stay up, like an Everton, they've obviously got no money to spend, really. Yeah. Somebody who he's going to play 25, 30 games, score 10 goals, and have a good Premier League career, but not exactly pull up trees.
I'm sure there'll be interest still. It's just a shame that particular move hasn't worked for him, because it must be quite difficult for him to, get himself up for leaving Villa finally, fresh start, and then
you get relegated and have to come back.
Not actually a fresh, so.
Okay, well, that's quite a sad end to the show, really, out of nowhere, really. I feel like we needed to save a silly question to end on, just for something different, but I've used them all up.
Sure. You don't have any more silly questions?
No.
I'm sure you can make one.
Sadly not. Obviously, it's Chelsea this week on Wednesday. I don't think we'll be doing a specific preview show for that. So let's quickly talk about it now. When I say quickly, I mean it. We will take it seriously, of course. We're not at that stage now where it's like, do we rotate in the FA Cup? I think you have to go out and win. It's obviously every game in the FA Cup is knockout, but once you get to the replay stage, like this is definitely it now. Yeah. You've got the prospect of another home tie after this against Leeds or Plymouth, lower league opposition. Yep. You're then looking at, well, if we beat them, you're quarter final. If you get through that, you're at Wembley. Like, we're now at that stage where you do take it seriously. So just, I suppose, what kind of lineup do you go with? Is it full strength, or do you make a couple of changes? And what's your score prediction?
Yes, strongest team possible, really. I think we can afford to do that, because yes, we have United on Sunday, and we can make changes in the game, but I don't think we need to be resting the whole team, because if I'm not mistaken, we have a couple of weeks at the end of this month where we only play weekend games. It's not as if...
I think after Man United, it's just once a week.
Yeah, so it's, pretty chilled after that, and then it
goes mad.
Then it gets horrible. But,
a lot of podcasting, Mark, let me tell you.
I mean, that's what we want. But yeah, full strength. I don't expect Torres to be fit. Emery said last week that he expects him to be in training this week, hopefully. Again, we'll ask him that tomorrow at Bodymore. But whether he's playing for United, playing against United as well, I don't know. But so I expect full strength pretty much against Chelsea. Maybe there might be a change here or there, but he's not going to make 5 changes. It's going to be a strong team, and as you say, then if we get through that, all of a sudden you are.
Competition opens up.
Yeah, like I said before the Middlesbrough game, that I wasn't massively up for it because Villa's record in the FA Cup, because we all know what happens next, Old Trafford, but now you can see a route to it. Fantastic. Now, as I said before, my focus wasn't the FA Cup, but it will be if we beat Chelsea, because all of a sudden we're now juggling 3 things, which is a scary thought, to be honest, but it's exciting.
It's fun as well,
I think it's just a lot of stress.
Yeah. I've got a silly question to end off the back of this conversation.
Not surprised.
You're not going to like this, I can tell you now. Correct. You can only win one. Chelsea or Man United? That's such a horrible question.
That's a grim question.
So you can get through to the FA Cup, you can have that Leeds or Plymouth game, or you can beat Man United and open up the gap in the league to 11 points and keep yourself in the top 4. You can only win one.
The Man United game is causing me more stress.
I mean, you could...
Right, here's where I'm at. The Chelsea game is a one-off, is like you win it and you're through.
Yeah.
So that's like just win the game. And Man United, you can draw the match and you can get Champions League still, easily. Not easily, but...
You can't draw, you have to lose the other one.
Oh, God.
Because I think the obvious answer is you beat Chelsea and you draw to Man United.
Beat Man United, then.
You'd rather beat Man United and go out the FA Cup.
If you had to lose and win one, which is a stupid question.
Of course, it's a stupid question.
I would hate to lose both
5
games.
point gap
But a 5-point gap
to Man United
is
as well.
quite terrifying, actually.
Man
I think.
United coming and beating us at Villa Park again.
Yeah, and a 5-point gap isn't something that
I'd rather go out the FA Cup and have an 11-point gap in the league. That's
although we had a
some
big
people won't
debate
like
about the FA Cup and the Conference League, about what it means, prestige and stuff. They're two pieces of silverware. I think we'll probably only win one. You know, we could win two. But
if we win both, the FA Cup,
yeah,
and
of
the
course.
Conference
But
League.
I mean, one is fine. I'll take one. Don't know. We can't be that greedy. I'll take one cup, and I think we have every chance to win the Conference League or the FA Cup. But the 5-point gap to United is just something that I really don't. It's not gonna. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna be really stressed over the next couple of months, few months, because Champions League is that important, and don't want to lose to Man United. If I had to lose one, it would be Chelsea, just because the 5-point gap against United would. I think that would be something that they could get over the next few months, whereas a win would open it up quite. It would look good, wouldn't it?
It would look good.
But yeah, it's a horrible question. I want to win both, so
I think we can win both. I think we.
Of course we
we
can.
We might win both. I think we will beat Chelsea, and I would take a draw against United. I probably would take. A draw,
I don't know if I'd
but
take. That's the better question. Would you take a draw against United? Not putting me in a corner about.
I think I
where
probably,
you like.
I probably would, just to. There's no
you?
ground lost, then, isn't it? It's just done, and you move on past it. But that would feel a little.
But the
bit
ground
like
at
a
the
missed
moment, I
opportunity to
think,
me.
is quite. What is it now? 8
It's
points.
8 points at the moment. It's 3
That
games,
can-
isn't it, to overturn?
But that can change in one weekend. Like,
But I think if you draw and it's still 8 points, it's harder for them to overturn it because they don't play you again. Obviously, if they play
No,
us
I
and
understand
overturn a
that.
6-point swing in one game.
I know, but that's only one weekend when Villa lose at Luton, United beat someone. It's just as an example. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I think I probably would just about take it. I think the fact it's at home probably would sway me to not take it.
Put it this way: the thought of losing is
Yeah,
makes you feel quite sick. Just,
Yeah, exactly. So if it was a case of just to get it over with and out the way, take a draw and to just not have to not lose against them,
Yeah.
I think I probably would take it. But I think we can win both. I'm not saying
we can definitely win. This is what we said it before. We said we could beat we can beat Sheffield, we can beat Chelsea, and we can beat United. But then I remember saying, but we will win all 3.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that because of where we were in terms of limited confidence, that sort of thing. But in each game in isolation, we can win them. So yeah.
I've absolutely made you
so much
during this podcast.
Honestly, the last third of the season is so. There's a lot of moving parts, and you have to just take it each game as it comes, honestly.
Yeah. Once we've beat Chelsea, let's then talk about Man United later in the week. How about that?
Yeah, but I've just said now that I'd rather lose. No, I want to win both.
Right, let's call it there, John. Thank you very much for your time, as always. Thank you for you guys for submitting questions. You can get involved in the comments on YouTube with some of your answers to these questions as well, particularly these kind of hypothetical, you can only win one nonsense. Get involved in those, as always. Thanks to Diane from DTW Creations. I will link her Instagram in the comments down below for the mugs and the coasters and the Haribo as well, which we will dive into in another video. We'll be back later in the week with more Claret and Blue content. There's obviously 2 games this week, as we've just been speaking about, so there'll be 2 post-match shows and a preview for Man United as well, plus some other bits and pieces. So stay subscribed to Claret and Blue, stay tuned, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.